That was a very vulnerable thing to share out there in the whole internet YouTube world. One of the most painful relationships that I had to work on was my relationship with my mom. I'm sure you can totally relate. I think any parent-child relationship out there, especially with all of the knowledge that we have about parenting styles, childhood woundings, and childhood traumas, because it's one of the most popular topics out there, especially in the mental health. We've all had some painful realizations when it comes to our relationships with our parents. To be quite honest with you, I'm not very pleased with the way that the mental health trajectory has gone around our childhood woundings in our parents. I do understand it's very important to uproot and repair any kind of traumatic and abusive generational and familial patterns that have happened. And I really respect the mental health industry and teachings around opening our eyes up to that. But where I find it to have such a pitfall is the fact that we've all, not all of us, but a lot of us have come to demonize our parents. And I fell into that pitfall too when I was younger in my teachings and in my experience and doing my own work and then working with clients and then just having a bigger worldview. I realized that never brought me peace. That kept me in a victim mode, and I was a victim to my childhood upbringing, and I was a victim to my painful relationship with my mom. It brought me no peace or relief. It didn't. It really didn't. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to what I'm talking about, because at the end of the day, none of us really want to have a strained relationship with the people that brought us into this world. That's where the psychological teachings are so important, because they talk about the attachment theories. If you get into the Freudian and Neo-Freudian teachings around the splitting that happens in us when it comes to our relationship with our parents, and often it focuses on our relationship with our mother, the split that happens. If we want to talk about Melanie Klein, more Neo-Freudian, she talks about the good breast and the bad breast, the mother that feeds us and the mother that hurts us, things like that. I don't like where it takes us, because I feel like it creates a villain out of our parents and a victim out of us. The more healthier and more liberated approach and the more peace-bearing approach is recognizing that these are generational patterns that have been passed down. Somebody needs to wake up to them and somebody needs to repair them. In this case, it was me. And since you're watching this video, it's you. The mirror method was the method that helped me bring peace to my relationship with my mom. And actually, we have such a great relationship now. And the mirror method was the biggest catalyst to that. It wasn't all of the other things of like, oh, you did this to me and I'm like this because of you and da 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 da. And she went through her guilt spirals and I went through my judgment spirals, and she always felt bad and I always felt bad, and it wasn't repairing anything with us. And I didn't like that. But once I implemented the mirror method, we literally had a full-on transformation in our relationship. Add layers to all the things I've had to work through. I had an absent father, and I was trying to have a deep and vulnerable conversation about that with my mom. And as I was crying, really open, really vulnerable, really transparent, he was never around, and that really hurt me, and da 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 da. She turned around and she said something along the lines of, well, you know what? I can't understand your experience because I've never experienced that. In that open wound, that hurt so bad. And I felt like there was a complete lack of empathy. And then she just kept going on, just talking about a matter of fact things, very logical based approach. And all I wanted was her empathy, or I wanted her to console me, right? The little girl in me wanted her mom to hold her and console her when she's hurt. In that case, my mom was just talking matter of fact. That created an experience where I just stopped talking to her for a little bit. And that time I went and I worked with somebody to be like, okay, hey, I'm not figuring this out. I need help on this. And we work with the mirror method, and my chief complaint of her towards her, where she lacked empathy, well, I was showing up in the same way for her. I showed up in the same way for her because, we didn't talk for a while, and then she's like, I feel really bad. I don't know how to fix our relationship. It makes me want to give up. And I had no empathy for her in that moment. I'm like, well, I don't know what that feels like for you. It was kind of like a tit for tat response. I felt hurt by her and I wanted to hurt her. It was very unconscious on my part. It wasn't a conscious experience that I wanted to go through. On a conscious level, I don't want to hurt my mom. I don't want want to hurt anybody in this world, really. But it was my pain, right? Hurt people hurt people. When I finally used the mirror method and I looked and I was like, well, Ida, you're not showing your mom real empathy. You haven't looked at her pain, how much she's had to endure to get here. Maybe she hasn't had the luxury or the gift or the time or the space to sit here and do deep introspective work, to understand like how painful an experience could be and to process through it. She's had to keep toughing through. She's been a single mom. She's had to take care of raising me and my sibling. She's an immigrant and a refugee, and she's had her own traumas. Like, she hasn't had the space to have that empathy that I needed. Through that mirror, I saw that, okay, when I'm seeking from her, I'm not even able to give her. And I need to be the one to introduce it in my life and in her life. And that's where the transformation really happened. That's when I was able to have empathy for myself. Like, hey, you know what? My situation was tough. So was my mom's. Right? I had a rough start in life. So did she. I can actually sit here and feel it out. I'm going to do that for us. I'm going to be the person that's going to repair this because I'm the one doing the work. I'm the one that has the space and the time and the mental capacity. I'm not a single mom, trying to take care of my kids right now. I have space for this. And also, this is my career and my hobby and my profession, my worldview and my passion in life. So I'm taking a deep dive in this. I'm going to be the one to introduce it. To repair that situation, even though I felt initially as the victim there and I needed her empathy, I came and I apologized to her and I said, you know what, Mom, I've never looked at life through your eyes and your perspective, and I apologize that I have not been showing you enough empathy and that I have not been kinder to you, and you've always been so accepting and so supportive of me. Here I am showing you empathy. And she started bawling. I started bawling. It was so emotional and all that kind of stuff. But something shifted in both of us. There is so much empathy between us right now because somebody had to introduce it into the equation, and that was me because I'm the one that needed it. And also it helped me to realize, hey, is my internal dialogue, is this a reflection or a projection? If it's a projection, that's how I feel about myself. That's the condition of my heart and the condition of my mind. And if it's a reflection, it's how I'm showing up in the world. It was both in this case. Not only was I showing up, having my needs be more important than others, my emotional sensitivities be more important than others. In that case, my mom. It was the way I was showing up for myself. I wasn't very compassionate for myself. I was really hard on myself. In the mental health world, we talk a lot about inner child healing. I wasn't very kind to that inner child part of myself, which is the emotional part, which is the part that gets sad, the part that gets hurt, the part that gets scared, the part that gets angry, or any kind of emotional experience that we have. And I wasn't very compassionate with myself because obviously it wasn't modeled to me. And so I learned it. I learned to develop that method and that level of empathy and compassion for myself. And then I introduced it to my mom. And then we were able to reflect that back to each other and also impact and have a ripple effect in our family to be more empathetic and compassionate. Given all of the hardships that we've gone through in our background, we needed a lot of empathy and compassion, but it just wasn't part of the equation because we were too busy being in survival mode. And so the mirror method was the game changer in our relationship. Totally took me out of victim mode, completely repaired my relationship with my mom, and also impacted our family in such a positive way. That was a very vulnerable thing to share out there in the whole internet YouTube world. So I hope that it was helpful for you, and I really hope that it helps you repair your family relationships. Again, this is not condoning trauma and abuse. So if you're being abused or there's a traumatic experience that's happening within your household, you do not need to endure that. There are many hotlines out there that can help you. Please check out this hotline, this text line, if you need any help with, especially if it's elder abuse or child abuse, to call, get help for anybody that needs it. And if you're an adult and you're not an elderly adult and you're not a minor, you should still reach out and find more resources to get yourself out of a volatile situation. relationship. So I hope this helped. I'd love to hear your story if you're open to sharing it in the comment section. May peace be with you. See you in the next video.